Hello and welcome to part 3 of the NativShark Starter Guide. In this part, we'll be going through our first study day together. To start our learning, we'll click the most important tool on NativShark, the Study Now button. This will start our first unit, which Nico, the president and lead content writer at NativShark, will also explain. Go ahead and give this a quick read and then hit OK to keep moving on. Alternatively, you can hit Take Me There and you'll see the text version of these guides. All right, hit OK. And next we have our first Kana set. So Kana refers to 2 of the 3 scripts we have in Japanese, which we can see here. They're called Hiragana and Katakana. We'll learn about them in this tool and the rest of NativShark, so you'll be seeing them a lot. Note that we highly encourage you to listen to the audio while going through this tool and the rest of NativShark as well. It's good to get your ears used to the sounds of Japanese as early as possible and kind of keep that up throughout your studies. However, if you're somewhere where you can't listen to the audio, or maybe you're just trying to speed through, you don't have a lot of time for today, having a no audio day is way better than having a no study day. Consistency is key. Don't sweat the details too much. Anyway, take your time, go through this tool, and keep in mind you can click on any of the kana to make them play the sound like this.
A, I, U, E, O.
Also, if you studied Japanese before and you're familiar with the kana, you can press skip this set right here. All right, so feel free, pause the video, go through the tool, and I'll see you here when you're done. All right, finished? Otsukaresama desu. Good job. You just learned every vowel sound in Japanese, which is a great first step. Once we finish up our kana set, we'll land in our first lesson. So lessons. There are 1 to 2 lessons in every NativShark unit. Probably not surprising, but lessons are where a lot of the learning happens. So there will be focuses on grammar, kanji, culture, history, a lot of stuff. So Overlay-chan will pop up and guide us through what they look like. Feel free to follow her around or skip it. We'll go over it together. Okay, so starting from the top, here we have the title and the summary of the lesson. And we see that sumimasen is used to say excuse me or I'm sorry. But this uses some kana that we haven't seen yet, so the lesson takes some time to introduce those to us. Feel free to take a look through these, and remember you can click on them to see what they sound like. These will be introduced later though, and you're gonna see them so many times, you don't have to worry too much about them. And if it feels a little bit tough right now, don't worry, that's normal. It's a brand new language after all, right? So let's keep reading the lesson and we will see our first example sentence. So example sentences are made up of Japanese, written and spoken in the way that a Japanese native speaker would say it or write it. Example sentences come with 2 pieces of naturally spoken audio recorded by native speakers. So let's take a listen now.
すみません。
すみません。
So you can hear here that the male speaker is speaking really fast and he's kind of like mixing in some sounds and stuff. So the female speaker, we have a nice clean sumimasen, right? But the male speaker is like sumimasen. So don't worry, this will be all explained in later NativShark units too. So I just suggest listening to it a few times, try to kind of pick out the differences and keep moving. Whenever you don't understand something or something doesn't immediately click, that's okay. Maybe you just need to take a break and then see it tomorrow, or maybe next week, or maybe in 3 weeks from now. Either way, moving on lets us see more Japanese. And seeing more Japanese gives us more context to understand all the Japanese we've seen up to this point. If a concept is important, you're gonna see it again, inside and outside of NativShark. This idea really helped me a lot, so I'm gonna put some more info on this down in the description. I highly recommend checking it out. Anyway, keep on reading the lesson, and once we reach the end of the lesson, you can choose what sentences you want to appear in your reviews in the future. If you feel like you don't really need to see the sentence again, go ahead and toggle it off so it won't show in your reviews. Otherwise, keep it on and you will see the sentence tomorrow and then onwards. After that, go ahead and choose how well you feel like you understood this lesson by selecting these brains here. So 1 means you have no idea what was going on, and 5 means that it was really easy. And then after that, click on continue and you'll complete the unit. So that gets us our first progression badge. So this one is because we're familiar with the 5 vowel sounds of Japanese. Let's click OK and keep moving. Next, we have a message from me. This is similar to what I talked about during the lesson. Whenever you see some Japanese you've learned before and you don't remember it, that's not a failure. The fact that you remembered that you forgot it proves that there was some learning happening. So just see it again, take the reminder, make a small mental note, keep moving. It will stick with time. Feel free to click on Take Me There and you'll see an article all about this. Also, I'll have it in the description too. Otherwise, hit OK and complete your first unit. Let's cut some of this. We just completed our first unit on NativShark and took our first steps towards a high level of Japanese proficiency. Now we're back on the dashboard. So feel free to press the Study Now button again if you want to do another new unit, or just show up tomorrow and hit the Study Now button then. Like I said in the last part, most students generally do around 3 to 6 new units a week, depending, but many people do the beginning units a little bit faster. Feel free to do whatever works best for you. Also, you can quiz yourself on Kana by going to Library Kana Review or Library Quizzes. Keep in mind, we'll also show you all the Kana as you keep hitting Study Now in case you aren't familiar with them yet. That's about the first 20 units or so. Either way, before we end our studies for today, I suggest taking some time to think about how you can make it as easy as possible for you to show up to your studies as often as possible. I'll put a lot of info about this in the description, so feel free to check that out. But the two things that helped me the most were habit tagging and being kind to myself. So habit tagging. Habit tagging is when you attach a habit that you want to form onto a habit that you already have. So when I was just starting to learn Japanese, something I did every day was press the power button on my computer. So I tagged studying Japanese onto pressing the power button. So every time I press the power button on my computer, I studied Japanese for an hour. No exceptions. Eventually, I got a tablet to study with, so I tagged my studies onto my morning tea and like waking up. But there are so many ways to do this. Nico tagged his studies to his morning coffee, and he had like his study sanctuaries, which were often like his favorite cafe, where he would just go and study for however long. So what does your routine look like? Do you study after you walk your dog, after you eat dinner, before you eat dinner, maybe with your morning coffee or tea? Maybe it's before you go to school or work, or after you come home from school or work. Or if you have kids, maybe it's after the kids are asleep. Either way, it's helpful to start building the habit now while your motivation is high. Motivation is a little hard to predict, but habits keep you consistent long term. The other thing is once your habit is formed and when you're showing up often, be sure to be kind to yourself. Learning Japanese is a long journey. It will take years to reach a high level of proficiency, so don't worry too much when you forget stuff. In fact, forgetting is a necessary part of the learning process. Remembering things we've forgotten is how our brain realizes what information is important and what isn't. So whenever you're doing reviews and maybe you see a piece of Japanese you forgot, don't beat yourself up on it and don't worry about being perfect. Just worry about seeing the Japanese, making some mental notes, and moving on. The rest is consistency and time. Again, more info on all of this just down below. So yeah, feel free to do some new units, quiz yourself on Kana, or just log off for today and come back tomorrow. But either way, the next part of this guide is day 2 of our studies. So log in tomorrow and I'll see you in the next part of the guide.
この番組はフューチャーラーニングメソッドネイティブシャークがお送りしました。